So everybody, for those new on this live stream, this is MMA legend Cat Zingano, and you guys asked a bunch of questions, and we're gonna get through those today. But first, I kind
Okay,
of want
well,
you to
like you
introduce
said,
yourself,
my name
Cat,
is Cat
and a little
Zingano.
bit about
I
you.
am a professional mixed martial artist. I am currently ranked #2 in the world. I have a fight coming up March 31st, so 2 weeks from now. So I'm in training camp and doing all the things to get ready for that. I'm a mother. I'm a single mother. I have come through a lot of really crazy stuff to get where I am today, which, puts me in this place of really empathizing with people that, need a hand and are still trying to get through really tough things while, carrying around some other really tough things. I'm really excited to be here to do this scholarship, the Overcoming Loss scholarship. I know at certain times in my life, at different times in my life, I needed to, do things for my future, do things towards my future. Meanwhile, having gone through some really tough things like losing my mother to brain cancer and losing my husband to suicide. And at those times, I really needed help. And there were things that were very helpful at the time. And there were things that I couldn't get until later. And I'm finally in a position that I, want to be able to help some people and get everybody to where they need to be in order to be their best selves and be able to feel what they need to feel and go through the motions of grief and go through the motions of still like bettering themselves and still setting goals and still finding ways to feel okay and normal, but also finding ways to feel not okay in ways that are okay and all that. So, I'm on here just, excited to be here, excited to be on this side of things for people. And yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's amazing. So what we love about you, Kat, is like not only are you this amazing tough fighter in the ring, but you are a fighter in your daily life. And the whole team here at Bold.org, I'm sure a lot of students who have applied for your scholarship can say the same, that we are inspired by you. And the Overcoming Loss Scholarship, Bold.org could not be more proud and so excited to partner with you on
Yeah,
this.
I'm
So
excited
it's
about it
really
too.
amazing. Thank you
We
for
did
sharing with
one last
everybody.
year, and the story was amazing. And I'm still in touch with the girl, and we're looking for this one this year to do it all over again. And I hope it's something that we get to do every year. It would be amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing. Guys, if you don't know, Cat does have a scholarship with us. It's open right now called the Cat Zingano Overcoming Loss Scholarship. If you click the link in her bio, you could actually apply right now if you're eligible, but you want to soon because it literally closes on Friday. But like Kat said, this is the second time that she's done this scholarship, and for you to want to even do that every year is so amazing. And like we said, we're so inspired by it. And speaking about the scholarship, I know you've said a little bit about it, but if you wanted to share more about like your heart behind the scholarship, on how it came to be, like what was your, yeah,
So
just
when
your heart
I
behind the scholarship and
was,
why it was
I
created.
believe 23 years old, my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 brain cancer. I was in college. I was going to school for. I originally started going for sports psychology, and then I transferred over. Very disconnected, but transferred over to interpreting American Sign Language. And she was sick. It was really hard. It was hard watching her go through the motions, especially knowing that it was terminal. And meanwhile still needing to show up for class, still needing to find ways to have a car to drive to school, like time and the mental capacity to do my homework, all of those things that like they were a really hard pressure to have on me at the time. Meanwhile, how do you balance this time with your parent, with your loved one, and just the support that goes with other grieving people that are around you? It's a really complicated thing to go through and a very difficult thing to watch. And I as her time came and everything, right immediately after she passed away, I found out that I was pregnant with my son. So, you know, that's a whole nother thing to go through too, where now I have to grieve this. I'm also continuing to go to school, but I also need to pull it together enough to like handle all of that. And it was really hard, and I didn't always have the words for it. All I had was like, I know at the end of all of this, the picture that I want is to be this mother that has set up our lives and made it through this really hard thing so that like he's okay, and I handled it in a really good way that is some sort of an example to how you get through hard things. And you know, I didn't have the most help. You know, some people were able to help me out a bit, but like I really had to figure out a lot of it on my own, and the hard way, and making a ton of mistakes. And you know, when I look back, it would have been so great to just have been given a break in the middle of all of that, you know, and just even help with my debt, help with, you know, just money that goes towards getting me to school, getting me to places so that I could further my education, so that I could make things just a little bit easier for me, so I could focus on the things that are really, really important. And I had a tough time with that, you know, and you know, I worked it out. I ended up starting to do jujitsu. That was a really great outlet for me. And I, you know, fast forward a few years, you know, my son was 6 years old, and his dad, my husband, he went through a really tough time, and he ended up taking his own life. And at that time, I had a really hard time trying to figure out like, what is life like now? How do I balance all of this? How do I, you know, make the right decisions and the least amount of mistakes, and, you know, get through this the most healthy way possible for me, and as a leader to my kid. And again, like I felt like I was overwhelmed, and I felt like I made mistakes, and I felt like I needed help in ways that I didn't even know how to ask for, because there was so much survival going on. And you know, it took time, and sometimes the only thing that you can do when you really have nothing is just take the time and talk to the right people, and reach out for help in the ways that you can think of. And it's always there. These pains, these injuries, these scars, they're on the inside and the outside sometimes. And it you know, with time, and with help, and with being able to reach out and get support, I feel like I'm in a really good place to be able to look back on those times in my life and think, man, what would have helped me? Like how could that have been easier? And what was I going through? And what was I going through that other people weren't going through, that made it so much harder? And it makes me look at this, you know, this platform and this program and this scholarship as like, I want to give someone a break. Like I want to give someone the break that I didn't have. And even the little breaks I did get, you know, people helping out in one way or the other, you know, some kind of bonus or some kind of thing that came through at the right place, right time. Like I never forget those things. And they were so valuable and so useful. And so, you know, I want to be the thing that I needed. And right now I can do it. So I'm here, and I'm listening, and I'm being inspired by these stories as well. These are all people that want to continue their education, meanwhile are going through something tough, or have been through something tough, whether it's current or it's in the past. It's obviously still something that's a fire inside. And it's to give $10,000 to help with student debt to anyone that's lost a loved one, or a close family member, or a like a parent or guardian type situation, you know. And again, just give someone a break and give someone help, take care of a little bit of that school debt. There's a ton of debt out there right now, and I know it can be so frustrating and so overwhelming. And just you know, that little thing that, you know, might help out a little bit in you reaching your goals while you're going through a tough time.
Yeah, well, that's amazing. And one thing that you said that really stood out to me is you want to just give someone that help that you needed when you were going through something. So that's just really amazing. And your whole story is just incredible in how you were able to persevere through all of those hardships. And I know, of course, the people applying to your scholarship are also going through those hardships as well. So is there any advice or just something you would tell people who are trying to
I think
overcome
it's really
loss? Like what
important to
would be
find the
your
right
biggest
people to
advice to
talk
them?
to. You know, I think bottling things up and or, you know, masking things with band-aids like substances or like unhealthy distractions or whatever. I think it just makes things take longer as far as parts that really make you suffer. You know, the biggest medicine for all of it is time and talking to people that, you know, you can process your own thoughts and your own feelings through, and just, you know, finding goals and sticking to them, and, you know, always showing up, even though, you know, some days it's really hard to get there. It's really hard to get out of bed. It's hard to crawl into some clothes. It's hard to find your way out the door. But, you know, those days that I have like that, I'll get myself there, and I'll always be glad that I went. I'm always leaving where I dreaded going, and I'm like, oh, okay, all right, I'm glad I went. Like, I'm glad I didn't miss this. I'm glad I put that in my, you know, piggy bank of things towards feeling better, or things towards doing better, or things that I can look forward to because I did the hard thing right now, you know. And just time and adding up those little things that you made it through, and those little successes that you can give yourself, and honoring yourself and telling yourself like, okay, I'm kind of proud of myself for that today, or that was really, really hard, or I didn't want to do that, or I was scared, and like acknowledging like, damn, I did it. And then I did another one, and then I did another one, and allowing that to add up. And, you know, you can tell people about your bad day. You can tell people about your good day, you know, and communicating, getting out there and saying how things are, and having it be okay for it to not be okay as well, you know, and just keeping it real. It's very hard when you compact things, or you hide things, or you distract from things, to get to a place where you're actually healing and you're actually growing from stuff. And like in my case, in my story, these things were the most awful things that I can say have happened in my life. But when I get to look forward 10 years, when I get to look forward 15 years, like they made me strong in ways that I never would have expected. And they gave me empathy in places that I never knew felt a certain way. And on top of it, like, I get to be right now in this position I'm in to help out only because I know what that's like. And that means so much to me. And if you can try to think ahead, things like that, like one day this will make sense, and one day this will have been something that helped me grow into this thing that I needed at the time. And it's not always easy to think that way, but trusting it, you know, trusting it.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think we just live in a time where people just tend to bottle up their feelings and just put a smile on their face and like mask it all. So that's amazing how you're just telling people that it's okay to not be okay, and to seek help when they need it, and also to just have the right people around them. I think that's so important, and that's really, really great advice. So
Well, and
thank
I
you so much for
say
sharing
too,
your
like
story.
when
It's
I
honestly
read
like
these
so powerful.
applications and stuff, I know
And
these are hard to write. Like me telling my story for the first time, especially about my husband, I was very defensive about it. I was like, I'm only going to give them just so much, so like it's interesting enough or whatever. But once I actually got talking, it was so cathartic and it felt so good. And I really hope that while I'm reading these letters, that's what this feels like to people, because it's like, it's amazing and it's deep, and I can feel how much this mattered, and I can feel how much that it took for you to put this together. And I just want to say that vulnerability is very powerful, and I'm really proud of people for it.
yeah, that's amazing. And I can only imagine how many applicants are actually telling that story for the first time by applying for your scholarship. So even just giving them the platform to speak and be vulnerable is such a powerful thing. But so the first half of this live, my goodness, I'm like trying to hold in emotions. It's amazing. But we did have a ton of students submit a bunch of questions because they're just fascinated with you and just want to know more about you and the MMA world and everything. So if you don't mind, we do have a few of those questions. So the first question was, how were you first exposed to the
wrestling when I
MMA
was
world?
12 years old, and I wrestled up through middle school and high school and into college. And I just really liked the combat sport. You know, it was a very interesting sport to do. And when 2004 came around, I planned on going to the Olympics. Like, they had allowed 4 women's weight classes into the Olympics. It was the first time they were going to do it, and that was my plan. And, you know, I worked my butt off. I ended up not making it. Girls that I was beating and going against, you know, it was their day and they got there and I didn't. And yeah, I mean, I had a weird identity direction thing go on when I didn't make it, you know. A few years, so I retired from wrestling in 2004, and I had my son in 2006. So when I had him, I had a new baby. I was still going to school, like I had said, with all that. My mom had just passed away, and I was feeling really overwhelmed because I didn't have anything that I did for like an outlet. You know, it was like, I have to do this, I have to do homework, I have to take care of the baby, I have to make money, I have to like make the world turn. And I just felt pent up, and so I started to do jujitsu. And jujitsu was similar to wrestling in enough ways that was you know, a good enough outlet for me. And around that time, a little bit before that time, I had seen the UFC when I was at a bar playing pool. Well, this was before my son was born. I had seen it at a bar when I was playing pool, and I remember thinking, like, why don't those people just take each other down? You know, I, as a wrestler, it was like, they're just standing right there. They could take each other down. So then when I started doing jiu-jitsu, I remembered that stuff I had seen on the TV, and I asked, I was like, do you guys do that MMA, the fighting, or people fight in the cage? And they're like, yeah. I was like, so can I do that sometime? And at first they said no, but then about 6 months into training, I was able to take my first MMA match. And after that, it was really cool. And I just wanted to like do a fight and then go learn more things and then use those for the next fight and see if I could pull it off, and then go train more things and see if I could do that. And that's kind of still how it works for me.
Wow, that's awesome. So man, you just knew like that is what you wanted, like going from wrestling to that, like in jujitsu. So that's really,
Mm-hmm.
really cool. And it's just so fun because it's not something that you hear often, you know. So we love you. It is so awesome. And so with like contact sports like this, a lot of like friends and family tend to be like super scared, like, oh my gosh, like you really want to do that, you really want to go into that. So one student asked initially, how did your friends and
So
family react
when
when you
I
first told
wrestled,
them like
wrestling
this is
was,
something
it
you want
was
to pursue?
weird because I was one of the only girls. You know, there was very few girls in the sport, and um, it was just kind of a novelty. You know, I until I got really good, and then it was like, oh wait, this is interesting. She's actually very good. So I feel like when I started off in MMA, it was similar. It was a similar vibe. Like every once in a while, there was two girls the same size, and they would throw them on an MMA card somewhere in the lineup, and like it was kind of cute, right? Like they would have these girls that were in some kind of cat fight because no one was really training a lot of girls then either. But you know, and so I think originally when people heard I'm getting in fights for fun on purpose, like signing a contract and doing it voluntarily, I think at first there was a bit of an eye roll to it. And you know, getting my family to come was a little bit tricky. I know my sister, she didn't think it was her scene. I think my brother came to a couple, and you know, he said it wasn't his scene either. My sister works at Children's Hospital, and my brother is an engineer, so they weren't used to the like leather and fishnets and like you know, they weren't. I understood that it
Yeah.
wasn't necessarily for them.
Yeah.
You know, I liked being in the cage. I'm not. I like doing the sport. I like the fitness of it, the goal setting of it, the combat of it. But yeah, I mean, I can see why they wouldn't see that as their scene. So that was a little tricky, but you know, fast forward, I get into the UFC and I'm winning these huge fights and I'm, you know, making this huge name for myself. Then I started getting asked for tickets to stuff, which I just felt was an interesting full circle to be like, wait, this wasn't your scene when it was there, but it's your scene now. Got it.
That's awesome. What's so funny is I totally see that dynamic with it's like out of siblings, there's always that one sibling that wants to do something totally different. So I love it. I'm that sibling in my family. So just seeing them be like, oh, that's not my scene, but like go do you is so funny. But it's amazing how they're like super supportive now and seeing like how far you've come, which is so awesome. And speaking of perfecting your craft and just being more skilled and actually winning your fights and everything, how
I
was it
I
like
I want to
winning
give
your
you
first
like
fight?
this cool cliche answer, but I was very stressed out. I remember the nerves going into it. I was extremely nervous, and I didn't know if I was going to be able to remember all of the things that I learned. And like the girl actually showed up to weigh-ins and she had a black eye, which was scary to me because I was like, wait, does that mean you trained harder than me? Does that mean you like, I don't know, whatever you can make things mean because you're nervous, And we went against each other, and I
Yeah.
I forgot some of the moves. I remember I took her down at one point, and I was striking her, and I heard the commentator say, "Wow, that's weird. I don't know why she isn't moving or advancing positions to mount." And I was like, "Well, oh my God, which one was mount? I remember this. I remember this. I remember this. Which one was mount?" And then eventually I was like, "Oh yeah, it's when you get on top." And I won the fight, but I felt very stressed out, and I was like, "Did I like that? I don't know if I liked that. I'm not sure if I want to do that again, but I kind of want to do it again to make sure I don't want to do it again." And then there's another one, and then there's another one. And I just remember how hard I was breathing. I was like, do I want to breathe this hard again in my life? Do I want to like work this hard again? I don't know. Let me try another one and I'll see. Let me try another one and I'll see. And we're still doing it.
Well, that's awesome. Just like you said, you wanted to try again to see if you liked it, but here we are.
Yeah, right. Well, in the world
Wait,
right
and
now,
you said
140.
you were like
Mm-hmm.
second in the world. In the world. That is
Still
incredible. So yes, it's
like
definitely a
it.
feeling that you wanted again. That's so awesome. And love it. And so speaking of like that fear that you felt like with your first fight and everything, um, even these fights now after you've done so many, what is something that you do, or I'm not sure if you get nervous anymore or if you have that fear anymore, but do you have like any pre-fight rituals or something that
Um,
helps you overcome the
the
fear of
nerves are
like
still
nervousness or
there,
just
and
anything
for
for
anybody
that?
that says they don't get nervous anymore, they're just, I mean, I understand wanting to be a tough guy, and I understand wanting to like act what you're speaking, but everyone's in there nervous. Everyone's in there losing sleep at night, like wondering how you're going to do, wondering if you've done enough. Like one of the hardest things to, and the most like difficult things to answer is when people come to you and say, "Are you ready?" Because it's like you've been asking yourself this the whole time, and so it's a trigger when someone else asks you, and now you have to verbally like confirm or deny, like, yes, like I will find out, and so
Yeah.
that part can be very tricky. And for me, it's a lot of effort in controlling my thoughts. It's a lot of effort in watching when I start going down a rabbit hole, or when I can feel myself tensing up, or um and and kind of the same thing where it's like, I know I have, for right now, I have 2 weeks left, and 2 weeks before a fight is very intense because it's kind of like a funnel, and everything just like funnels down into the one night. All of your training right now, all of your diet right now, everything you do with your time, everything you do with your energy, impacts how these last 2 weeks go. And that's very mental how they go, because that's what you have to look back on as far as like, okay, how did I finish? Did I finish strong? Did I finish the way I wanted? Did I do everything I was supposed to do? Like all of that. And yeah, sometimes it's a really conscious effort of being like, you can't think about this right now. Like you have to, I'm gonna go watch some dumb show, like some reality show that, like, okay, well, what they're doing is way more stressful than what I'm doing at the moment. Let me watch them. Or, whatever. It's a lot of maneuvering and kind of like a tennis match in my head and with my body, because I know if I don't relax, that adrenaline will cost me later when I really need it. So it's, talking myself down, changing my
Yeah.
environment, calling someone and being like, hey, I'm nervous right now. Can we like talk about me? And, it's again, it's the right person. You have to call the right person, the people that, are going to make it better, not the ones that are getting you and get nervous with you. And,
Mhm.
what if the hell out of something with you, like the ones that they got you and they know how to like minimize things or distract you or change the subject or kind of like just bring you back down to earth, you know, and that's anything with anxiety, you know, anything like that.
Yeah. Oh no, like everybody definitely needs their support, their supportive friends, their supportive team. So that's awesome that you have your go-to, like, okay, I'm nervous, like, can we talk or something? Which is great. And so with all those nerves and all that adrenaline rush and everything pumping before fights or everything, like what makes it worth it to you? Like
I
what is the
think
most rewarding thing
for
with being a
me, like,
fighter?
I really love to win, you know, like I don't want to go out and compete just to compete. And I do realize there are some people that just want to be part of it, and that's their thing. You know, they love to fight, they love to train, they want to go in and like they're okay with however they do. And for me, like it's kind of always been the same. Like I love learning new things and then going and doing it. Like I love seeing what I can do. I love finding out what my body is capable of and trying it against all different people. Like the fight is the biggest like piece because that's the one everybody looks at, but you have to practice this every day. You have to go against all of these different numbers of people at sparring to see if you actually know what you're working on, and if you picked it up, and if that move is actually for you, or if you should move on to something else because that's not a tendency you have, you know. And so there's a lot of craft to it, there's a lot of chess to it, where you know you got to figure out how you work, and this is how I get to know myself. And using all of this is like I feel like a healthy distraction in my life as well. It has been something that does make me feel like I have control of myself and control of my body. It does take a certain degree of discipline. It does take a certain degree of self-talk. You really have to watch what you say to yourself because you'll believe it. You even have to watch what you say about yourself to other people. Even if you're being sarcastic, you know, it can come back around and be like, man, why did I say that? You know, that hurts my own feelings. I said it and it hurts my feelings, you know. And those things are just things that I figured out about myself that
Yeah.
I like to do, and I like to figure it out on other people. So when I go and I compete well and I'm happy with how I did, and you know, I always end up, not always, but most of the time end up with this bond with my opponent where it was like we were each other's canvas, you know, and we got to see what each other are made of. And I work extremely hard for it, and I really care how I do. And I I like that this is how I get to make a living.
Yeah, that's such a cool way to make a living. Like it's like I said before, it's not something that's super common. So like picking your brain and having these students ask these questions is so fascinating, really. And I actually have one question for myself. So with the people that you fight in these rings, are you like friends with any
Before
of
I
them?
can't
And then
stand
have to
them.
like
I
go
don't
fight
want to be
them?
in the same room as them. I don't want because I care. That is something that again I've had to learn about myself, is that I can't get to know somebody because I don't want to care about them, and then I don't do what I'm supposed to do because I want them to have a good day too. Like I only want to have a good day that day. And when it's over, you know, we can hug, we can be friends. The only thing is if they were rude or they were snotty or anything before the match, we'll probably not be friends, because that to me is still a first impression. You know, I'll always be respectful. I'm usually very quiet. You know, I just keep to myself and, you know, we'll go through the motions and get ready and show up and whatever. But if some people do try to hype it in ways that, you know, get attention by being mean or by talking negatively or trying to get under your skin, and those things don't work on me in the way the most of the time I think they're doing it. Like they don't intimidate me or make me emotional in a way that I'm going to come out and mess up. Like they actually kind of put like an X on your back where it's like, you were mean to me, you bullied me, so now I'm going to, you know, it's almost like permission to be worse to you because you started. And I have a hard time like wiping that off afterwards. But I
Yeah.
also do have some best friends that I met through fighting, and not only are they my best friends, they come and they help me train for other fights, or they're who I call when I'm nervous, or you know, all of these huge life events they come around for, and we never would have met had we not seen each other almost inside and out inside that cage.
Wow, that is That's seriously so fascinating. I love how you're saying like you're not for like the mean talk and the bullying behind the scenes before the fight. If not, they have like the X on their back. So watch out. If anyone's watching this and you're fighting Cat Zingano, you better not talk smack. So we do have one more quick question, and then we're just about out of time. But what is one thing that if you could go back in time and tell your younger self, what is one thing you would tell your younger self?
I would honestly say it would be to when I'm mad or triggered or anything like that, to give myself time to cool off before saying things or doing things or making decisions. You know, just taking the time to really figure out, like, am I factually as mad as I think I am about this, or am I emotional right now? And when it comes down, I'm going to be able to realize, okay, I was just mad at the moment, or I was just confused at the moment, or I was whatever. So I just think, you know, giving things time is our friend. I think, you know, taking a step away, letting your emotions cool off so you know exactly what your emotions are and what to do with them. And also just finding the right people to talk to. I think it's very hard to realize that not everyone in your life is the person that you're supposed to go to when you're having a tough time. There are very specific, and not everyone is meant to be the exact same person. Some people are people you go to when you're talking about school. Some people are people you go to when you're talking about grief. And they, you know, some other situation comes up and it might not be either of those people that are the one. It might be your grandma now because she knows people the way you know people or something. Really considering your whole index of loved ones and like where you could be supported the best, and how and tell people how you work, you know, and give them the option of like, hey, I need to cry right now, or I need to vent right now, but I don't need solutions. I just kind of want to freak out. And at the end of that, if I change my mind and I feel better, like, can you maybe help me think of what I want to do about this or whatever, you know? And that communication and that just being vulnerable and giving yourself time to, like, you know, figure out how you really feel about things and settling down before making any decisions or any kind of any kind of reactions.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. So time is your friend, and make sure you have the right people to talk to. Perfect. Amazing. Thank you so much, Kat, for joining us. This has been such an incredible live stream. Thank you for sharing your story, and also just for being vulnerable on a live stream in front of people that you don't even know. So we appreciate you, and we are so excited
I'm
to
very excited
award
I'm very
the
excited
next Overcoming Loss Scholarship. Alrighty. Well, that is all the time we have today, guys. Again, thank you so much, Kat, for joining, and we will see you guys